You thought he was done? You thought the takes were too hot to handle? You better think again. He's back with even more scorching opinions, more controversial predictions, and the kind of truth bombs that only Zain Bando can deliver. If you missed the first round, prepare yourself. This is the follow-up you've been waiting for. It's time for Zain Zinger Part 2, another certified hit from the Empty the Bench Network. Here's your host, Zain Bando.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. This is a new edition of Zain Zinger Part 2. I'm your host, Zain Bando, the host of the main flagship show as part of this series, Bando's Breakdowns. Hope you all are doing well on this Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, or Sunday evening, wherever you may be in the country of the United States of America and, of course, around the world. Hope you all are doing well as per usual. Just a few quick reminders before we get started. As I just alluded to, again, an extension of Bando's Breakdowns. Let's take care of a few particulars before we get started. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the ETB Network. To do so, go to youtube.com/ETB Network. Of course, you can follow the show across social media at Bando's Breakdown. It's live on several different platforms, including Bando's Breakdown. Let's go over those platforms really quickly. YouTube, my YouTube channel, the ETB Network YouTube channel, my Twitter account, the Forever Power 5 Twitter account, the ETB Network Twitter account, the MMA Outsiders Twitter account, the Bando's Breakdowns Twitter account, and of course, Press Row, which, by the way, for those of you who know Press Row, we're going to have a special guest on here in just a little bit to discuss some NBA and a few other topics, so stay tuned for that as well. And then, of course, you can listen to every episode of Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts, including this week's past episode 86, which premiered on Friday afternoon. And of course, as I just alluded to a minute ago, I'm Zain Bando, a sports journalist and ETB Network co-host. You can find me several different places on Sports Illustrated, Sporting News, Field Level Media, several other syndicates as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. Excited to get moving here. But before we do anything whatsoever, just a quick plug. Next episode of Bando's Breakdowns will be episode 87 with myself. It'll be next Friday, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. And for those checking out the show right now, welcome to Zain Zinger Part 2. All right, let's get into the festivities here. We had to rearrange the show given that we have a guest coming on today, but it works out in our favor because of some of the things we're going to be discussing. So let's start here with UFC Winnipeg from the Canada Life Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which took place last night. It was a very, very exciting main card. Let's start at the main event here. Mike Malott gets the job done, a third-round TKO over Gilbert Burns in a very, very exciting fight, a five-rounder, if you will. Huge, huge win for Mike Malott. That's now 4 in a row, 4 proper, if you will. Let's take a look at sort of how things played out. And of course, he did get the finish at 2:08 of the third round of that 5-round non-title fight. Overall, Mike Malott looked really good on his feet. Gilbert Burns did really well. To close or to try to close out Malott, but he couldn't. Obviously, a right hook caught him coming in, and of course, it was the beginning of the end for El Dorino. That's now 5 losses in a row. He unfortunately announced his retirement following that loss, saying that he was content with his career, but if he can't compete against the best in the world, he no longer wants to do this anymore. He was a staple at 170 pounds. He also spent some time, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, earlier in his career at middleweight. So he sort of bounced around as well, if I'm not mistaken, but primarily at welterweight, if you will. So a good career for Burns, was just short of a title fight, or excuse me, of winning the UFC. Well, winning the UFC welterweight championship against Kamaru Usman all the way back in 2021. 22-10 was his final MMA record. Finished 15-10 in the UFC, spanning about 12 years. And Dana White had a lot of good things to say, primarily talking about how he feels that Burns is a good person overall and is well respected and should be well respected by the MMA community, despite the losing skid that he ended his UFC run on. What else was there as well? Let's see. Let's see here. With that being said, Mawat, though, does insert himself into the top 15. But I do think that's one of those where he knew he was going to win that fight. I mean, he's fighting literally in front of his home country. It doesn't get any cleaner than that for a win for Mawat. Actually, this result is semi wrong because it was a right hook followed by a left hand combination, so it was kind of all over the place. Nonetheless, though, Mawat gets the job done. He's now 14-2-1. Chose to not call anybody out, but did call Gilbert Burns a legend overall. Let's take a look at some of the other results on this card. Well, we have a minute. We actually went 5-6-1 on this card, so not the greatest night of fights, but we now have 3 draws so far in the UFC this year. That's a very early start for the far right category. You usually don't see that very often, but 5-6-1 was the clip there, so we're up to 86 wins on the year. Unsure how Jack Gold did, is unfortunately I never got his predictions, but we're still hovering in the 30-ish fights above 500 mark going into the end of April. We have one more event in April. That's the Aljamain Sterling Yusuf Zalal fight at the Apex next weekend, which we'll get into more on the newest edition of Bando's Breakdowns this coming week. But some other notable wins. Charles Jourdain outlasted Kyler Phillips. That was a good fight. Jai Herbert looked really good against Mandel Nalla. Mandel Nalla made his UFC debut in that one. Jasmine Jazz Davicius won a unanimous decision. Gage Young outlasted Thiago Moises, and Marcio Barboza. Nasty knockout of Verdenis Bazooki, one of the best finishes of the year thus far. So overall, was really happy with that. Let's briefly go over Dana White and his latest remarks regarding Bob Menery versus Johnny Manziel. That's supposed to be taking place at Brand Risk Promotions, which is Aiden Ross's fight promotion. The event is supposed to be on May 16th. And according to a recent Aiden Ross live stream, and speaking of live stream, shout out to the 119 people that have tuned into this stream. You guys are fantastic. Dana White put out a viral video Friday night from the War Room in Vegas suggesting that Bob Menery would not show up to this Johnny Manziel fight coming up next month, and that Menery never follows through on anything he says he's going to do. And without putting Menery on blast, from my personal experience, Bob Menery, I can agree with Dana on this one that Bob Menery does not do what he says he's going to do. So I'd be very surprised if Menery showed up. I agree with Dana in that regard, and I do agree that the smart bet on Polymarket or any other betting platform you want to put your hands on, the best way to describe it is, he probably won't show up just because that's simply, I don't know, the kind of guy he's made himself out to be. And it's a dumb fight, but hey, allegedly it's going to be moved from Miami to the Apex. So who knows, maybe the UFC Apex event that night gets altered, or if Brand Risk is earlier in the day. So for people who go, they can go to brand risk and then they can stay for UFC fight night a couple hours later because the UFC can easily turn things around. I'm not sure what they're going to do or if they'll move UFC fight night maybe to an entirely different date. Remember, that's the same night as the Ronda Rousey Gina Carano fight that MVP is putting on in Los Angeles on Netflix. So could be a wild night of combat sports, assuming this fight happens. But apparently, according to Aiden Ross, they're looking to try to do it at the Apex. Would be really interesting. Running through a few more before we get to our guests, the NHL postseason so far is off to a fast start. Let's take a look at some of the scores while we can. To be fair, I did not watch any of these games, but I will give you who has won thus far. So in game one of the first round of the Eastern Conference, the Flyers outlasted the Penguins 3-2. Minnesota took care of business in game one of its series against the Dallas Stars. Carolina shut out Ottawa 2-0. Colorado defeated Seattle 2-0. The Oilers defeated Vancouver. That was during the regular season still. But nonetheless, those are the four thus far. Philadelphia wins, Minnesota wins, Carolina wins, and Colorado wins. There's more hockey today as well. And then very, very briefly, before we get to our guest, huge news out of Champaign. The retention is complete. All the five major stars from last year's Final Four team, maybe minus Keaton Wagler, if you wanted to add a sixth, are back in Champaign this upcoming season. So a lot of hype surrounding Illinois. We have the Ivicic twins back. We have Andrei Stojakovic back. We have David Mirkovic back. And of course, we have Jake Davis back as well. Could they be preseason number one? That remains to be seen. I'm not so sure. But I do think it is good news. If you are an Illinois fan and you are thinking that maybe a Final Four repeat is a possibility, they certainly have the retention pieces to go and do that. Unfortunately, though, the latest on John Blackwell is it looks like John Blackwell, according to several different sources, is not going to be coming here, barring a miracle. It'll probably be UCLA, Duke, or Louisville. Apparently, he's visiting Duke and Louisville this upcoming week, so it remains to be seen what John Blackwell's next move in the transfer portal is going to be, but very, very exciting to see that Illinois is building the foundational pieces to try to return to the Final Four, which will take place next April in Detroit. Very excited about that, considering that Illinois just played in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago, its first Final Four appearance in 21 years. So really, really excited to see how this Illinois team could look as we get closer and closer to the start of the fall season, which will be in November. Some key non-conference matchups that I can say with certainty are happening. They're going to be playing at Texas Tech. As we know, Illinois beat Texas Tech last year in Champaign. Also, the huge rematch, this time at the United Center against Dan Hurley's UConn Huskies. I'm sure there's going to be some revenge going on in that game. That's a game I will certainly be at. And that's a game where I'm only expecting the worst, but you never know what could happen. But Illinois is cursed at the United Center. Illinois has not won at the United Center since 2019. So I don't know if that'll start next year. And then obviously the big one, the one that everybody cares about every year, it's the bragging rights game against Missouri. This is a little wink to Missouri. Can Missouri keep it within 30 this year? I'm not so sure, but they've made some nice transfer portal additions. So maybe it will be a very competitive game. And speaking of basketball, my next guest that we're going to bring in, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs as well as some of the major stories going on in the world of professional and college sports. I want to welcome in my ETB Sports co-host and the host of Press Row, or the co-host, I should say, of Press Row as well, Nick Morganson. Nick, happy Sunday. How are you doing? And thanks again for joining a stream that apparently a lot of people are really excited to watch. We have 135 people in here this morning. I'm very surprised.
Yeah, I was up early. My niece and nephew had sports. It's that age, 7 and 5. So I've been awake since like 8:30 this morning. So
that'll happen.
I'm raring to go, especially the NBA playoffs, even though nothing's really surprised me yet.
Right. So I want to start here. Let's start, I guess, from the bottom, if you will. And no, that was not meant to be a play on words. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Drake fans, if I confused you there for a second. But nonetheless, I think let's start with the elephant in the room. Let's start with the viral video that's now going around. Do we believe? And I guess we'll get more into this also on ETB Sports later this week. But do we believe that the Golden State Warriors trio was the at the was that the last time the threesome will be physically on the same court? And just what did you think of the end of the Golden State Warriors season after surviving against the Clippers and just not playing their best basketball against the Suns a couple of nights later?
You know what? Golden State's an interesting team because they had their run, they had their dynasty, they won 4 titles. The Warriors really have nothing left to prove. Steph Curry has nothing left to prove. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Draymond Green's going to be a Hall of Famer as much as everyone thinks he's a pain in the ass. We get it. He could be in the top 3 as a defensive player of the year, but I think that's going to go to Wembanyama, who's had an incredible year. Steph Curry has already come out after the game and said that, and mind you, he's 35 years old, but his body's breaking down like he's 45, the way he's looking. But he wants an extension, he said in the offseason.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if he's going to be a year-by-year guy, but because he's been such a loyal guy and a star, he'll probably get a 2-3 year extension, and then maybe he'll retire. But Steve Kerr has also come out, the head coach of the Warriors, and said he's got to think about whether he's going to come back or not as the head coach.
Yeah, which to be fair, Nick, I mean, I think whatever Steve Kerr decides to do, I think his legacy is set in stone. He has nothing left to prove at Golden State anyway.
I mean, he's had an incredible career anyway, all the way back to his playing days with the Bulls. He was on those legendary teams.
I know. Honestly, as much as people here in Chicago would like to see Billy Donovan retained in some capacity, I would not mind Steve Kerr coming home, to be honest with you. Which I don't know. I don't know if that's the greatest fit, but what I can say though is that it's certainly a name, and that it's certainly a guy that's known for turning struggling franchises around, because Golden State was nothing but irrelevant before Steve Kerr got there.
Oh, they were nowhere near close winning a title before Steve Kerr came into the fold. But you brought up the Clippers before. Holy crap, but the Clippers giving up 43 points in the fourth quarter to absolutely get annihilated to lose again. I mean, what a mess of a franchise the Clippers are.
Complete mess. Utter mess.
And they've already been dealing with the Kawhi aspiration situation. Like, that situation's not getting any better. I feel bad for the Clippers, but like, they're always going to play second fiddle to the Lakers, who somehow survived game 1 against the Rockets, which everyone thought. And it's weird because when you look at that matchup too, the Lakers are the higher seed in that matchup, which if you looked at them now without Luka and without Reeves, you would think they wouldn't win. Everyone thought they were going to get swept.
Right. And which, by the way, that made your pre-series prediction wrong. You were another one that said the Lakers were going to get swept, and now they can't get swept.
I thought they were going to get swept, but first of all, LeBron is I looked this up and I saw it the other day after the game. Oldest player in NBA playoff history at 41 years old to have 10 plus assists in a game.
I mean that's not going to happen again for a long time.
The guy is incredible. As much as I shit on him and give him a hard time because I don't like what he stands for, you have to admit when he plays good basketball. Like, you can't, like, if you're putting up 10 assists at the age of 41 and you're still managing to score, and I think the reports are is that he is going to come back and play next year, regardless of the result this year. So at 42 years old, he's probably going to be back in the NBA.
Well, yeah, the big question now is which team is he going to play for? Is it going to be the Lakers? Is it going to be Cleveland? Is it going to be somewhere else? No one seems to know that yet.
I don't think it's going to be the Lakers. I think he's kind of done his time. Excuse me, with the Lakers. I think it's either going to be Cleveland or New York.
Well, if he comes to New York, that might be. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that might be the most expensive ticket in sports if he comes to the Big Apple. I think
The
that's going to
problem
be.
is it's 10 years too late, in my opinion,
Right.
because he's going to be 42 heading into the next season.
Right, and
If he did this at 32, that would have been, you would be 100% right by
and
far.
it's not the decision era anymore.
No. And the big three is really not incentivized anymore because of the cap. So
Right, and now there's super teams everywhere, right? There's at least 3 or 4 really stacked teams every year. It's not the same as it once was, at
right.
least as far as I understand it.
Well, the unique factor is going to be, and we'll get back to the playoffs in a second, but the whole Giannis situation, how that plays out in the offseason, whether he's going to be traded, and that's going to affect how some teams are really rolling. If the NBA didn't have enough issues already, they're investigating Milwaukee because Giannis wanted to play, but the Bucks wouldn't let him play. But I'll leave that for the offseason. But what other series do we have to talk about here?
Sure. So we have a couple more, and then I want to get to a controversy because, as you know, I like talking about conflict.
So do I.
And this controversy is everywhere. So I figured I'd ask you, and it's related to this because tons of people are voicing their displeasures, if you will, about this. I guess let's keep going while we're at it here. So that was obviously the Rockets and the Lakers. The Lakers winning that one, 107-98. Any surprises in game one between Atlanta and New York with the Knicks picking up the win by 11, 113-102?
No, I mean, the Knicks had a lot of expectations going into this year because of all the injuries to Boston at the top. So everyone thought the Knicks were going to run away with the Eastern Conference, which, by the way, did not happen. I know they were the 3 seed, but Detroit surprised everybody. We'll talk about that in a second. But the reason I bring that up is Detroit was not supposed to be a number 1 overall Eastern Conference seed. That's just not what was supposed to happen. But that team just managed to outplay everybody the entire season. The Knicks were good, but the Knicks still have injury issues. They're still dealing with a lot of pressure going to the playoffs because everyone said, oh, it's championship or bust this year. And to be honest, with Jason Tatum coming back for the Celtics, they are the better team. Sorry, Knicks fans, but with Tatum being back and playing better than everybody thought, pairing him with Jaylen Brown, it's just a better team. But the Knicks should win this series easily. What do the Hawks have? They have nothing. They have absolutely nothing to hang their hat on right now.
True. And just the fact, too, that it seems to me like every year, or at least some years, Atlanta's one of those teams that like flies under the radar. And you may remember this too. Do you remember a couple of years ago? And I'm pretty sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they upset Boston or something a couple of years ago in like 2023 or something? Or was that Toronto?
I think that might have been Toronto, but here's how I look at Atlanta. So
okay.
Atlanta's going to make the playoffs every year. That's just what happens. They somehow sneak into the playoffs every year, but they're not going to be a overly dominant team or an overly messy team. They're like right in the middle, and they're going to be somewhere between the 5th and the 8th or 9th seed now that the playoffs extend to 10 because of that stupid play-in series, which I can't stand. But they're always going to make the playoffs every year. They're a consistent team that's just going to get in regardless, but they're just not good enough every year to go further than maybe the first round, and they're not going to beat the Knicks. It's not going to happen.
Right. So if you were to guess, I mean, they lost this game by 11. I mean, could they win one game in this series, or do you think they're just not good enough to do so?
I mean, I got to be careful because, like I said, I thought the Rockets were going to sweep the Lakers, but sweeps are much harder now than they once were because teams are more anticipated, and a lot of times because of the way the series are built now, the underdog team is going to win at least one game in every series. It's just the way it works out. But I don't know. I think I said in our prediction that I think they're going to win one game, like a home game somewhere. Because
yeah, you said they'd win like a game 4 or a game 6 if it got there is what you initially said.
Yeah, I think they'll win one game, and that'll be the Knicks kind of as the joke we like to make in the NFL, how the Steelers play down to their competition
Yeah,
every
good
single
point.
time. Like I think that's going to be the Knicks. Like so, the Knicks might win the first 2 games, and then they're going to say, "All right, we can put this series in cruise control," and then they'll lose a game, not single handedly, like hard, like but they'll lose a game that they should have won.
Exactly. Let's go through a couple more, then we can make our quick picks for today's slate. We have 4 games today. Let's take a look at the final 2 games that we didn't look at from yesterday, and then I can go on my brief rant. Let's start in Cleveland. The Cavaliers took care of business against the Raptors, 126 to 113. This was less of how Cleveland would dominate versus whether Toronto would show up. And it seems like Cleveland just took care of business pretty much wire to wire, at least for the most part of the game. This one to me was the least surprising outcome of the entire day yesterday. What did you think?
Yeah, I Toronto doesn't have a chance in this series. They might win a game, but that's all they're going to do. But Cleveland is a really good team. The problem is the teams above them, which the Celtics, the Knicks, it's I think they could win a title. But I just I don't know, they've never been good enough ever since LeBron left. Like and everyone remembers he came back for the 1 year and he won the title and all that stuff. But I just don't think they're good enough. Donovan Mitchell's a really good player. People forget how good he can be. Like he's MVP potential, but he just can't stay healthy fully. But he had 32 points in this game. Like the guy is a scoring master.
He is. That's for damn sure.
And as long as he scores, they're going to win games. Toronto, they're kind of a wild card to me because they don't have like except for Scotty Barnes, who's a really, really, really good player. The rest of the lineup, like Brandon Ingram, how many times has he been moved now? Like 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Like, and it's because he had a disgruntled tenure in I think it was in New Orleans. But RJ Barrett's left over from the Knicks. I don't expect much from him. And then Polatil and Sheed. I only know a little bit about the two. They combined, let me make sure I have my math. They combined for 21 points on 7 of 13 shooting, and they're in the starting lineup. Yeah, if they win one game, it wouldn't shock me. Let's just put it that way.
Very interesting. And then I'm pretty sure the last one we didn't go over, Denver and Minnesota. Minnesota obviously giving Denver a run for its money, but Denver able to survive. I know you said this is arguably the best series in the whole first round. Do we think it's living up to the hype so far?
I mean, I'm kind of surprised the Nuggets won by 11 points. I didn't think it was going to be. Now, I'm looking at the scores of the quarters. Like, they were all pretty close, within 10 to 12 points. But you know what? Denver is the better team. They are the better team. Jokic is, and people are this is going to be controversial slightly, but I think Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA right now. Even though Wembanyama had an incredible year, he's going to get some MVP votes. He's not going to win it, but he'll get MVP votes, and he'll definitely be in the top 2 or 3 for Defensive Player of the Year. But if Jokic and the Nuggets don't win this series, that would be a massive disappointment. Because I like Anthony Edwards. I like Ant-Man. I like what he stands for, even though he was sat for a game because he was late showing up to the court because he decided to go to the bathroom instead. But you know what? The Nuggets should win this series, but I think it's going to be the best series. Like I said on our last episode of ETB Sports, if it doesn't go 6 or 7 games, I'd be shocked.
Oh, for sure. I think overall, though, there's a lot of parity in this first round, and because it just started, I think there's going to be more to come as time goes on. Let's go through our quick picks before we move on to some NFL Starting the day, we have the Sixers taking on Boston in game one. I like the Celtics in a close one today. What do you think?
I don't think the Sixers have a chance in this series at all. I think the line is big. 13, I think it's like either 12.5 or 13.5 right now currently. But I'm surprised the Sixers survived, considering Paul George had injuries all year. Joel Embiid can't stay healthy and stay on the court. They're not making it past this series with the Celtics. I'll tell you that right now. The Celtics are probably going to win this in 5 games, probably. Because, like I said, you have to give the Sixers a chance in a maybe to win one game on their home court. But if the Celtics don't win this in 5, I'd be shocked. Like, I just think Tatum and Brown, even with Tatum missing most of the season, Tatum was almost like acquiring a big star at the deadline and just picking up where they left off. So the Celtics should win this in 5.
Yeah, I would think so too. Moving on to some of the other notable games of the slate, there's 3 more to briefly go over. Phoenix versus OKC, the Thunder hosting game 1. I love OKC in this game by whatever it wants. I think this is the easiest pick of the day.
Yeah, the Thunder are, again, a lot of anticipation, a lot of pressure, obviously winning last year, going for back-to-back NBA titles. Don't get me wrong. The Suns played decent ball in the play-in, but this is not the play-in anymore. This is going up against the number 1 overall seed in the Western Conference, and you're going up against one of the biggest stars in the NBA right now with Shai. So how do I look at this game? OKC is going to win this game. That's not the question. The spread is big. I don't know if I would touch the spread. The spread is 14.5. So which means they have to win by 15. Yeah, game ones are the toughest ones to bet spreads on because you don't know what you're walking into when you first walk into a series. But I like Shai to go on a scoring fest. I'll tell you that much. I'm happy for the Suns. They won 45 games this year. They worked their way all the way into the playoffs to the play-in after the whole debacle with Kevin Durant and having to trade him away.
Right, exactly. Yep.
But again, I would say if the Thunder could sweep this, but I'm going to say Thunder in 5.
Okay. And just kind of wrapping it up with these final 2 games. The first of the nightcap, Orlando against Detroit. Detroit, the number 1 overall seed in the Eastern Conference. Some Pistons fans are calling this an out-of-body experience. Does Detroit get an early gift this evening with its first playoff win in a long time?
So the Pistons are the best home team in the NBA this year.
Right.
So they enjoy the home cooking better than most teams do in the NBA.
And that isn't to discount them. They're still very good, but that certainly helps though, right?
Right. I'm not discounting them. First of all, they went 60-22 this year. Like they won 60 games. That's hard to do regardless. I mean,
right, exactly.
But just looking at I don't know if is Cade back or is he done? I don't even know if.
I'm not sure. Last I looked, they were unsure if he was playing or not, but that could have changed.
Because unfortunately he had the collapse lung.
Right.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw the ruling for Cade Cunningham and for Luka Doncic that they got exemptions for the MVP for the games rule, and so now they are both eligible for the MVP. I don't know what your thoughts are on that stupid 65 game rule for end of season awards, but I think it's a dumb rule. What do you think about that rule?
Trying to think here. So that's a really good question that you just proposed. I mean, I think it kind of really goes to show just sort of how you look at it. I I really feel like it's whatever you think it boils down to. I think with Cunningham or without him, I still think they win today, though. I can
Yeah,
say that.
yeah. As much as I love the Magic, and the Magic are finally coming around after many years of miserable basketball, missing the playoffs, or making the playoffs like every so often, but they were just not good enough. Paolo Banchero is going to be one of the big stars in the next 3 to 4 years. Like he's going to become the big name, but Detroit is playing good ball. But what the one thing that's going to hold Detroit is the experience factor. They don't have a lot of experience. I know they made the playoffs last year. They were a high seed last year, but they're young and they're going up against the Magic, who has some veteran experience, not as a team making the playoffs, but they do have a lot of players that have veteran experience. I could see this going 5 or 6 games. I definitely see Orlando winning at least one for sure. Definitely on their home court. I'd say either 5 or 6, but I think Detroit wins this.
Yeah, I could see them winning as well. And then the final one before we move on to the last two topics briefly to wrap up a very, very exciting stream today. And shout out to all of you guys who have held down the fort in here. I greatly appreciate it across all the different platforms that we're currently on at the moment. One more to go over: Portland versus San Antonio. I think San Antonio wins tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. San Antonio's going to win. Wemby's going to come out and have a block party, no pun intended. Whether it's defensively or offensively, this guy is incredible. I mean, this guy's going to win many MVPs in his career, and he's going to be a two-way style dominating star. He's going to get he can get you blocks, he can score, he can shoot from 3, he can dunk. I mean, and heck, the guy's like 7'5" for crying out loud. I mean, this guy is dominant. He might win this series on his own, the way this is going. And I feel bad for the Trailblazers because they are going to get dominated by the San Antonio Spurs. This one might be a sweep, but again, you can't anticipate a sweep, so I will say 5. But if this was a sweep, this would not shock me.
I'm gonna go a little bit more conservative and say 6, but I could see 5 as well. You just never know in the NBA playoffs. Some of these really good teams have an off night, and maybe you'll end up getting a couple. But that doesn't exclude the fact that I do think San Antonio does win the series and move on. So
yeah.
We shall see. Moving on to the final two topics, both related to football. One related to the NFL, the other related to college. There's been some new updates, I guess, or new social media fallout from thousands of people. I guess you could say that. It's become.
I have to tell you, Callan is getting so annoyed by this story now. Like, because we've been doing it for like the past 2 or 3 weeks on Press Row because of all the updates.
Well, yeah, I mean, there just seems to be more and more coming out. There's more Page 6 reports. TMZ is getting involved. USA Today fired an independent contractor over comments that said independent contractor.
I want to talk about that too, because what's her name?
Chrissy Freud.
Chrissy Freud.
Formerly of USA Today.
Correct. Now, I did reach out to her. I'm waiting to hear back to see if we're going to get her on Press Row.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you've read her work, but she's an excellent NFL reporter. She knows exactly what she's doing when it comes to some of these markets in the South, particularly with New Orleans and Atlanta and a couple of others, and very, very heavily leaning into did used to heavily lean, if you will, into the SEC as well as the Tennessee Titans.
What I will say, though, is I've read her work. She does good work, but she's wrong in the way she handled this situation.
Okay, so is she wrong in the sense that she spoke out about it, or is she wrong in the sense that she keeps tweeting about it?
It's debatable because, again, if she was a full-time worker, you would have had more power there to say what you wanted. You should know this all too well because you work a lot of freelance. Like, you try to step the line a little bit when you say. Oh yeah,
I'm extremely careful with what I'm very, very, very I'm very careful.
Now, I don't know if her whole thing was, I'm gonna go scorched earth so everybody picks up my quote because that's what's happened at this point. Awful announcing picked it up.
She admitted on Outkick that wasn't her intention, although a lot of people disagree with that.
I don't buy that at all because she came out and said, I don't care what people think of me, essentially, after I put the quote out. So, first of all, going on Outkick is, my thoughts on Outkick. Which show did she go on?
Oh, it was what are the guys' names? The one with Withrow. I don't know his co-host though.
Oh,
It's
that show. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't remember the name. I thought you were going to say she went on with Clay Travis.
No. Didn't go on with Clay Travis. Didn't go on with Dan Dockage. No.
By the way, Dan Dockage is being the biggest jerk of all time. Like, for a few topics. This one saying that she basically chicka wow wowed her way to the top. Which I just think that's so wrong on so many levels. Like, what does Dan Dockage know that we don't?
I don't know. you'd have to ask him or someone very close to him about that.
I mean, first of all, his show being called "Don't At Me" is so apropos because he'll just say whatever he wants, and he doesn't want people coming after him for it. Like, but you know what? Like, first of all, Page 6 should be crucified in this whole thing. And by the way, shame on the New York Post for the way, because they own the Page 6. The way this whole thing has been handled, and they bought the pictures from whoever this no-name person.
Yeah, and they won't say how they got them.
And there's reports also coming out now. I don't know if you know who Jared Stillman is, the radio host.
I do, yes.
He's being a giant asshole during this whole thing, claiming that he has a source close to Dianna Russini, which, by the way, he won't reveal.
I did see that.
If your source is so prominent, why won't you say what it is?
Because he probably looks at it from the quote unquote journalistic integrity angle instead of just being transparent.
Well, here's the problem though. After he came out and did his podcast video, it got aggregated by all those stupid NFL Twitter accounts.
Oh, geez. Okay, I didn't even realize that. Okay.
So like the Dove Clemens of the world or the ML football accounts of the world, like it got aggregated everywhere. And people, and then like, you know how Twitter puts out those things on the bottom of the tweet, the disclaimers, and they're like, this is not proven. Don't run with it because there's no source that's credible to prove it. Now, we talked about this last episode, but even more now, I have an issue with people coming out and saying she's cheating, it's a romantic relationship. Where is the proof? Where is the proof that this is real?
Well, I guess we're either gonna find out or we're never gonna find out.
I just hope that I hope she's innocent, number one, because I think she's really good at her job. Like I heard you say on your last show too. Like,
well, I do think overall she's very good at her job, but when she's getting called out by George Kittle, if you will, that's not a great look. I mean, for him to publicly say for that one story that her source was incorrect, like you don't usually see NFL players going out and
but how often do we see athletes call out the media or the insiders, though?
Oh no, I'm saying in press conference settings they do, but not usually on social media like that, where 1.7 million people saw it. So
no, I get that. I hope she's innocent because I think she does a really good job. And if she's innocent, there's going to be so many defamation lawsuits. It's like you could just line them up like on a desk. All right, I'm going to sue Page 6. I'm going to sue this platform, that platform, everyone. And by the way, I was severely disappointed in Zach Gelb. I really was. Because
I know you were.
Because he did a no that you would even say as a journalist. That was, oh well, because she's holding the hands like this. like it's a romantic relationship. You would even say that's wrong.
Well, to be honest with you, you can't even really tell from the picture, right?
Right.
'Cause
And that's what frustrates me because he's been in the business a long time. You would think he would know better not to make an assumption, right?
right.
But you know what? And the biggest issue with this story right now, the NFL is refusing to investigate Vrabel.
Are we really surprised though?
I'm not surprised, but it's wrong. What?
Right, because you can't have the women's side of the story without the man's side of the story.
They're in this
either.
together. It takes two to tango in this scenario. And the NFL is basically, and Cowan made a good point, Nick D made a good point. Coaches are judged on wins and losses. They're basically allowed to do what they want away from the field. But why are they allowed to get away with stuff?
It's a good question. It's very suspicious, but this is no disrespect to our friend who's a Patriots fan. It wouldn't be a Patriots story without some sort of very suspicious
Well, it's interesting you say that because remember, I think I brought it up to you, the whole thing with what was it, AJ Brown?
yeah.
And the whole thing of him being connected to the
and there's this conspiracy theory that he's trying to go to New England and stuff like that. And you better believe if that ever becomes official, that's going to be the most retweeted NFL news in a very long time.
I find it funny the way people are acting. And by the way, the one last thing I'll say on this, because like Cowan and I even said, like, we really don't want to talk about the story again until the proof comes out officially one way or the other.
Okay.
And I'm making this very clear because people got on my case for this story for the last week. Because I said you can't make a judgment one way or the other. I'm not saying she's guilty. I'm not saying she's innocent. But people say, "Oh, well, come on, man. Your head's in the clouds. You know they're having sex in that hotel room." And I'm like,
how do we know that?
I said, "How do you know? Are you a private investigator? Were you there in the hotel while they were doing it? No pun intended." But I don't know, man. You got to let the chips fall and let the story fall and get figured out before you make a judgment. And on PR, like Cowan and I said, if she's guilty, we're gonna go full force in on her. If she's guilty, I made that clear. If she's innocent, then we got to talk about the innocence part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to wait.
Speaking of full force, it seems that the college football bowl schedule has done exactly that. It seems like there's going to be a new bowl game in Puerto Rico and a bowl game that has not been, reintroduced in about 15 years, which I think is that the Postseason Bowl? Is that how you pronounce it? Right?
I think that's what it was. Didn't they have what was it, New Mexico or Mexico game or something they're bringing too?
Yeah, I think that's what the Puerto Rico part of it is.
That's it.
You could double verify it for me if you want to.
I'm going to look.
I think it's very interesting. Obviously, the bowl schedule is already gigantic. There's 40 plus bowl games. We're adding a couple more to the schedule. I don't really think this is going to change much, but I do think what is cool is the new Pac-12 is going to be a part of this, and I do think it'll be good to see some of these other conferences that you usually don't see get a chance to play in the postseason. I think that's really the only benefit to this. Otherwise, I feel it's just adding bowl games to add more, I guess. And if this new one in which just to clarify, it is the Postseason Bowl, right? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, given that the Postseason Bowl hasn't been around in a decade plus, I'm not sure if the demand for it was even there. So that was the part that was a little bit confusing to me, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, doesn't this like kind of remind you of like March Madness in a sense where you just keep adding teams and adding teams and adding teams? By the way, it's the Puerto Rico Bowl is marking the first ever bowl game held in a U.S. territory.
Interesting.
And additionally, the Poinciana Bowl will return to San Diego after a 10-year hiatus.
Okay, I'm sure Cowan is excited to go back to start going back to bowl games again.
Yeah, it says likely featuring matchups between the Mountain West and the new Pac-12.
Okay, so you might see some Boise State action, some UNLV Actually,
Teams that shouldn't be out west or considered out west.
pretty much. I mean, unless you want to throw UNLV in there, that makes a whole lot of logical sense. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just more bowl games to add. I guess more bowl games to bet on. It's good for.
But people don't watch the bowl games, though. That's the problem. Like, the bowl games are just sponsors. That's what they are.
Well, they watch some of them. I mean, it depends on who's playing in them, though. Because I would argue that's somewhat misleading, considering that the bowl game I went to drew in 5.4 million viewers. The Michigan game last year with Bryce Underwood, it was that interim coach's final game. Biff Poggi, that drew like 4 million viewers. So there are some bowl games that people watch, but I would argue that most don't watch the vast majority of them.
Well, I just looked it up. So they need 82 teams to fill 41 bowl spots. Think about that. 82 teams.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Now, I'm assuming some of those bowl games are the actual playoff games.
That would be correct. That would be right. Because they are technically considered bowl games, even if they are part of the CFP rotation.
So what would that be? That would be what, 12 games? So 24 teams?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about half. So half the games are the playoff schedule. The other half are kind of just
correct
left over.
Right, and that includes the national championship game and all of that. So I think it's more of a developing story than anything. We'll see how it transpires. But as the banner suggests, the bowl schedule just got a little bit bigger. Before I let you go, Nick, and before I finish up with my final thoughts for the end of the stream, anything else that you'd like to add? And thank you again for coming on.
Did you see the Rapinoe Sue Bird story?
I did see it. Yeah, we'll probably talk about it in a couple days. Mm-hmm.
I mean, just for clarification, in case anyone didn't see it, and we'll probably talk about it in the next couple days, is Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe officially broke up after, what was it, 10 years, I think?
Yeah, which, speaking of Dan Dockage, he was a complete idiot by celebrating that.
No, but did you hear what he actually said, though? That he basically said, "Oh, Sue Bird is not a lesbian," and Megan Rapinoe dragged her in, and I'm like, "What the hell is wrong with this guy?"
Yeah, and how do you know that?
Again, but that's Outkick to a T. We assume everything, and we don't have to prove what we're saying either. Right? What is the name of that podcast? It was called "A Touch More." Was the name of the podcast they were doing together? It was like on their relationship and stuff.
Correct. Yes.
I think it's going away from what I saw yesterday in the announcement. And then I think Sue Bird is doing her own podcast. I think it's called Bird's Eye View. I think,
that's a clever name. Good for her.
And then I think I heard that Megan Rapinoe say she's going to be doing her own podcast for the World Cup, which that's going to be unique. Covering this across our network coming up in June. I don't know. You're going to watch the World Cup?
Oh, yeah, I'll watch it.
Did you see the whole... We're going to have to talk about the prices thing, too. Did you see the absurd prices they're charging to go from, like, New Jersey to Penn Station? Like $150?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's what inflation will do, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't say March Madness is the same thing, like when you went to the games and stuff, but they don't charge absurd prices to travel to those things, do they?
No. You may have to pay an arm and a leg to park there, but to travel there, no, not that I've seen. Well, luckily for me, it's all driving distance, but I'm sure based on locations, the flights probably aren't too terrible. Like, I can tell you this, like, flights to Houston to go to the Elite Eight after Houston was knocked out, like, you could go on a flight, like a one-way flight or a there and back flight for like $150, and that doesn't even include like and I'm saying $150 to be generous, because some of these other sites were a lot more, but you kind of just have to wait it out and see what really happens. So I don't know. I think it's all very interesting though.
By the way, there is
preferably though, as someone who's not much of a soccer fan, I prefer to watch it on TV anyway.
Me too.
I mean, the only way I'd go to the World Cup is if it was actually like physically in my city. I would probably go to it.
No,
But
I'm with you on that one. By the way, there is an update. I don't know if you mentioned this, but the trade last night, also the Dexter Lawrence trade. Also,
I did not talk about the Dexter Lawrence trade, but we can certainly talk about it later this week for sure.
I'll just say for 2 seconds because I know you got to end the show. But Dexter Lawrence did get traded last night from the Giants to the Bengals, and then it was announced about 30-ish minutes ago that he signed a 1-year, $28 million contract extension with the Bengals. So I guess he's there for the long haul. It sounds like.
Yeah, that'll do it. So that's madness in the NFL for you. And yes, they are a mess. Well said.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. And for those of you watching, we'll take care of a few other particulars before we let you guys move on with for Sunday. So thanks again, Nick, for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. See you around.
See you. Well, that was Nick Morganson. Thank you so much, Tim, for coming in. Obviously, the host of, or the co-host with me on ETV Sports, the co-host of Press Row as well. Just a few quick reminders before we get out of here as well. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. You can do so, youtube.com/ETV Network. Shout out to the 186 people who watched this entire stream. We went for about an hour today. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, my name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist and the ETV Network co-host. And one final reminder before we get out of here as well, because I like to do these and I like to plug these as early as I possibly can. If I can find it here we go. Bando's Breakdowns episode 87 will premiere this upcoming Friday, April 24th, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, only on ETV Network and wherever you get your podcasts. We could potentially have a guest, although it is a little bit murky with the scheduling at the moment. That's stuff I'm going to handle behind the scenes. Once we know if we have said guest, I will let you know. Nonetheless, though, there will be an episode this coming week, so please be sure to tune in. All NFL draft. Well, I guess as much preview coverage as possible, given what time the show is going to be coming out. We'll go over some assumptions, if you will, because we kind of know where the first few picks are going to be. We'll go over what the UFC Vegas card looks like this week. We'll talk about whether Dana White is actually going to box Eddie Hearn or not, which I don't think it's going to happen. It seems like Eddie Hearn is having more fun with this than Dana White is, but we'll go over that. We'll go over, I guess, the madness that was WrestleMania. We might talk about G-Fed getting banned from WrestleMania. For those of you who don't know who G-Fed is, I will introduce you guys to G-Fed when I discuss it next week and so much more. So please be sure to tune in to the madness that will be that episode of BB. So thank you again for all of that. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Zan Zinger. Again, you can catch this replay right now as soon as it's archived on YouTube and X. So shout out to you guys for checking it out. Please be sure to drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you know when these streams are coming out. And we will end the stream with 190 people. So enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs. Enjoy a full slate of Major League Baseball and so much more. And until next week, I will see you guys soon. Have a good one and cheers. Thanks.